happy Tuesday. It is the Tuesday after Memorial Day, which means we just had a glorious 3-day weekend, which also means we only have 15 more school days left of the year. That is crazy. The way it kind of works out is we still have basically 3 weeks and 2 days, 4-day week this week, 2 full 5-day weeks, and then a day and a half, and we are ending the year. I don't even know how it's possible. There's a lot going on this week, but I did want to pop in and just kind of share what we are up to. Some of our fun end of the year things. I think next week I'll do a video with the countdown to summer, what I usually do. Nothing, new or special. People do countdown to summer all the time, but I will share kind of what I do in my classroom, how I kind of schedule it and make it work. I'll give you a little hint. I do not go over the top at all. So like on camping day, we're basically doing, math, reading, science, all that fun stuff related to camping. But pretty much sticking to our structure of the day, because when it gets unstructured, things fall apart, at least in my classroom. So we're going to keep with that predictability for the last days of school as much as we can. We still have field day and all that fun stuff. So I just wanted to pop in and kind of share what we are up to. I did get a big box delivered that I wanted to share what's inside that because I'm very excited. So let's head over that way. Okay, I dropped this off on the back counter earlier this morning, and it is a bunch of IXL workbooks. Now, I am so excited to get these. I'm giving them to my students, so I just wanted to share a little bit about what they are. So they have these workbooks for kids going into grades 2 through 4 right now, and what I love about these is actually the setup. Now they have a little activity tracker here where you can mark off the days of the week that you do your practice. And what I love about this book is that it is going to be quick and easy. And in just a few hours a week, students can help avoid that summer slide. You can see we start here with a little all about me page for students to get used to it. And then on each day, there's just 1 or 2 activities for them to complete. So here we have add or subtract, to add and subtract within 10. I also love that at the top here, it will tell you the exact skill this aligns with on the website. And since my students are already familiar with the website, if a parent can see that they need extra help with this page, they can hop onto the website and they can go ahead and practice more skills just like this. And it's not just math, of course, we have every subject here. So we have some phonics practice here for them. Here we have some social studies using a mapped key, reading for details, adding within 20, plural nouns, number sequences, and so much more. I know my students are going to absolutely love these, and I always have parents asking for different activities and little just check-ins to do with students to not lose all that progress that we just made throughout the school year. So this is going to be a great touch. If you would like to take a look at these, just click the link down in my description. I have them on my Amazon storefront, and you will see all the grade levels, so you can grab whichever one you need. All right, in terms of what we are up to these last 15 days of school, believe it or not, there's still quite a bit of learning that is happening, which I hope you believe it because that's good. What we are doing in phonics right now is we are working on those multisyllabic words with suffixes, but we are also this week really diving into, is it going to be suffix S or is it suffix ES? So let me pull up those phonics slides, and just a quick little note, all my phonics slides for the year are completely done. So that looks like this bundle right here. If you already have it and you need to download the new ones, you can go ahead. I just finished up these slides for Unit 14. Which is our just review unit where we are reviewing all patterns and skills we've learned so far in first grade. So that will be linked down below as well. Let me pull up the slides and I'll show you what we are doing today. All right, so as you know, we always start by reviewing all of our sounds. We go through both slides, and then we just went over how we've been adding the suffix S to words, and we can add it to nouns to make it plural, and we can also add it to verbs to help with our subject and verb agreement. And then this is where we talk about if the base word ends with CH, SH, SX, or Z, then it's going to get an ES instead of S. So instead of buses, it's buses, or buzz, it's buzzes. And I always kind of emphasize that silly sound. If we just added an S, they can hear which one sounds correct. And then we just show each one, buses and buzzes, and I use each one in a sentence. Then we go ahead and we blend and decode the base word and then add ES. So glasses, boxes, bosses, benches, dresses, kisses, and so on. And then I show students that when we mark up the word, since we are used to marking up words in foundations, they will come up, they still underline the base word and then circle the suffix just like they do with our S. So here I just had 5 students come up, and with each word they had to read it aloud, use it in a sentence, and then mark it up. Then we introduced 2 new heart words, there and being, and we practiced reading them in a sentence and also writing them. And then I just put a 2-minute timer on the board, and we did a little challenge. And I said they have 2 minutes. Here are all the words. They have to go ahead and add the suffix either S or ES. And I put up this little poster here just to see if they could do it. So this slide right here, I can actually link down below as a little freebie for you. And you can just edit it for whatever words you want, because we did this once today, we'll do it again tomorrow, but they'll just get 2 minutes to decide if it needs S or ES, and they just write it on their board. Here's a little picture of them doing it, and it's just a good way for them to practice it, and then we go through each one to see if they got it correct. Good morning, happy Thursday. I had no time to film yesterday. The morning was busy, the afternoon was busy. It was just busy. It is the end of the year. So I am back. It is Thursday. Tuesday, I think I shared with you what we were doing in phonics, how we're teaching about suffixes. So today I wanted to share a little bit more about what we're doing in math with money, and then also what we're doing in writing. And I kind of shared a little bit about this last week. In terms of in writing, we are really like stretching them right now. So I really want them to be able to write at least 4 sentences at a time. Every time I'm asking them to like complete a prompt or, share about something, I'm not just looking for a sentence or 2 anymore. I'm looking for an opening, a clear middle, and an ending, which is something, of course, we work on throughout the year, but we usually work on it, over a couple weeks, and we go back, we edit it, we make like this bigger piece. This right now is like, nope. Here's your question. You have 1 writing period to do it, to answer it in that way. So again, building that stamina and just getting them ready for that 2nd grade expectation. So since I just talked about that, let's just flip right to writing and we will see what we're up to. Okay, so similar to what I shared last week, we are kind of bare bonesing it with our slides. So there were 2 that we have done so far. On Tuesday, we did over the weekend. Since we had a long weekend, it was Memorial Day. So it said over the weekend, and then this is where I explain what I'm looking for from my students. So again, just like I talked about last week with informative writing, students have already been taught this before. They've already used this organizer with our beginning, middle, end, and it's slightly different for informative writing than it is for personal narrative, like here. So we say, set the stage with your first sentence, who, what, where, and when. So I'm looking for them to set that stage. They're going to tell me who they were with, what they were doing, where and when it was happening. So setting, characters, and what we did. So this one was yesterday. So we talked about my favorite vacation. And I did these lessons the same way. So I would just say, okay, when I'm talking about my favorite vacation, I said, on April vacation, I went on a cruise with my family to the Bahamas. I have who, what, where, and when. And I write it right here. Then this is where I do my quick sketches. This is just my planning sheet. I did a little sketch of what I did first, what I did next, and what I did at the end. And then I took this plan and just went to our writing. Here right away, we have our writing pages, and students could take it and write it. So just like last week, if they wanted to use the plan on day 1, I gave them the plan so they would have it. And then when they were finished, they would come grab their writing paper, and they could just go ahead into their writing. By day 2 and day 3 today, where we're doing this again with different prompts, if they don't want to use the plan, they don't have to. I have this little check sheet up here. They need to make sure that they have at least 4 sentences where they've introduced the who, what, where, and we talk about when too. And then there are 3 sentences, a beginning, a middle, and an end with transition words. And then they always have to check for cups. While students are doing these, what I do is I actually go ahead and just make a quick little anecdotal, these are my notes, but I write down every student's name and I collect their work and I just give them a little grade. So basically our grades now are meeting expectations, progressing towards the expectation, or beginning. The B is like just beginning to make it. Most of my students have met this expectation by now. Some are still progressing towards it, and that difference between progressing and beginning is progressing is like they're on track, they're just not there yet, and they're like slightly behind. Beginning is more, maybe my students can only write a sentence or two, or maybe they are completely off topic, or maybe like of the checklist of things that they need to have, maybe they only have one, maybe two of them, but they're really not close to meeting that standard yet, if that makes sense. So we just kind of have 3 little grades, and this lets me check in, and I have their work from the units that we did throughout the year in my grade book, and they also have a grade for that. But again, that's like a big walked through process that they did with me for a few weeks, and they created this piece at the end that I could go ahead and grade. And especially for, I forget which one we did for, I think it was for narratives, because we wrote a ton of informative writing throughout the year, but I think it was narratives I only have one kind of grade for, and many of my students were still progressing, many were not meeting yet because we did it months ago. And so I talk about before, like I always have my students writing narratives during win time or in their journals, like giving them other opportunities to do this. But this just lets me see how they're doing here at the very end of the year. And many of my students already, I can see by their first and second ones that I've collected, are changing that P to an M. Like they are no longer progressing. They are consistently meeting that standard. And a couple of my students that were at a B back then are now at a P. So again, great growth, which is wonderful. I took off the one that was for informative writing that we did last week because it has everybody's name and their grade on it. This one, like I said, I'm just gonna quickly jot it down here and add it to my grade book. And then I am going to do the same thing next week for opinion writing. So next week is it's not our last full 5-day week. We have 2 5-day weeks left and then a Monday, Tuesday. But next week is the week we're really wrapping up all of our core academics. So we are wrapping up the writing. I'm going to do the opinion writing in the same fashion as I did last week's and this. I'm going to do, we're finishing up our Unit 13 in Foundations, which is great. And we are finishing up Money, which is our last unit that we taught. So all of those will be assessed next week. They'll go in the grade book ready for report cards. And then that following 5-day week is when we do our countdown to summer, which I'll explain. I'm coming. Sorry, I had to go catch somebody in the hallway real quick. So yeah, that is kind of what we are up to. I have my full day-to-day today. So our day-to-day, I know I've explained this before, but is where we get all together and we talk about our data and just kind of go over wins for the year, things we need to work on, and so on and so forth. So I'm gonna get that ready, but I wanted to share math. What we are doing in math is we are still focusing on money right now. So I was just gonna pull up just a couple of the activities that we are currently doing because we're gonna be finishing this up next week. So let me flip this around and I will show you the slides. All right, so first for a little warm up, what I've been doing is I've been having my students bring their whiteboards and markers over to the rug, and we have just these like little word problems here are money-based word problems, and they are in my hands-on math unit. So I just kind of did a little snippet and I cut and put it on the slide here, and I left this extra space. So I read it aloud. Jessica really wants to buy the toy car below. We talk about how much it is, 57 cents. And then it says she has 3 dimes, 2 nickels, and a penny. How much money does she have, and is it enough to buy the car? And then on the smart board, I come up and we draw it, and they do this on their board. So I say, okay, let's draw 3 dimes. 1, 2, 3, we write 10 in each one. 2 nickels, we write 5 in each one, and a penny. And then we count up how much she has, and we determine that she does not have enough to buy the car, and how much more would she need. So we kind of just walk through these together. And then I do the same thing over here. Ronald heard some coins jingling in his pockets. He reached in and pulled out 2 quarters, 1 dime, and 3 nickels. What a surprise! How much money did he find in his pocket? And again, they take out the whiteboards, they draw it, and we try to solve. So we did 4 of them. I bought 3 marbles at the store. Each one was a quarter. I handed the cashier $1. How much change did he give me back? And what is 1 coin he could have given me? And the last one is my sister and I both wanted the teddy bear below. Only one of us could afford it. I had 4 dimes and my sister had 9 nickels. Who could buy the bear? So we just kind of worked through that. Then we went into our main lesson, which is going to be using different combinations to make the same amount. We of course did a math warm up with our money, And then our engage slide says Logan has some coins. He wants to pay for an apple that costs 64 cents. What are some different ways he could pay for the apple? And since they still had their whiteboards, I had them show me 2 ways that they could do this on their boards. Then we just kind of went through the learn slides, which is, if you followed my videos, you know this is where we do the explicit teaching. So I just kind of explain it all here. We had a little hands-on activity, show 2 different ways to pay for the banana, and they did this with coins with a partner. And just went back and forth, same with the lime. And then again, similar thing here, draw pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters to show the milk in different ways, the sandwich, the water bottle, and the parsley. And then we didn't actually end up playing this game. I had a little bit of extra time, so I scooted on. We did the independent practice here, and then I had students play Race to $1. So let me show you that. Race to $1 is exactly as it sounds. They use a spinner and they will spin. That was a bad spin. We landed on a dime. So then I'll have all the coins here. I didn't grab them just for this, but they'll take a coin and they will put it here. And then the next person will spin. So they take turns spinning. Now you can play this collaboratively or you can play competitively. So first I had my students just work together to get to $1 and they would see how fast they could do it. So if they had a dime, like I said, they would take it and put it here and they just keep going until they get to $1. Once they did that together, then I had the other player come up and grab a sheet as well. And then they had to go back and forth taking turns until one person had $1 first. And then I would go around when they were doing it collaboratively, so that way I could kind of check in on them. And I'd be like, okay, how much money do you have now? So wherever they were, they had to count it up. So it was kind of practicing a bunch of different skills. Can they recognize it? Can they put it together? Can they count it? And yeah, so it was a fun one. Hello, it is the end of the day. Day to day is over. I just got back in my class. They had a sub today. We are at the building. We're in the building the whole day, so if anybody needs anything, we are right here. But my class is mostly with a sub. So got the rundown on the day, and we had another productive day. We started the day right here with a little rock, paper, scissors tournament that we all went around, and it was a good way to giggle and laugh. My teammate, who I lost to here, she ended up winning for the day, and she got a little trophy. I'll insert a picture of her right here. She got a little rock, paper, scissor champion trophy, so she ended up winning that next year. Next year I'm coming for you. But yeah, it was a great fun day. I need to clean up and get on out of here. I have book club tonight and the boys have soccer and it is spring craziness time. So I'm gonna end the video here. If you have any questions about anything you want to know more about, please just let me know. I think next week's video I'll pop in and just kind of share. I think this might be helpful, so actually maybe let me know if it's helpful. I was gonna share some of the stuff I need to do to prepare for the end of the year. So I know there's generally 2 different mindsets, right? Of like, this is an August problem. I just want to be done with the year. For me, I like to spend the last couple weeks just like doing little things that help me prepare for next year, so I don't come in August just like super overwhelmed. I know in August there's going to be a ton of things I have to do anyway, put my classroom back together. After it's cleaned, I'm going to have to organize things again, but there are definitely things that I can do now that help me with that and just kind of take a little bit of that mental load off for summer. So if that video sounds helpful to you, let me know in the comments, and that's what I'll do next week. But as always, I do hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up so I know. Make sure you are subscribed to my channel and click that bell. That way you're notified of every new video. See you in the next one. Bye.